Agreed to have this hearing today to examine and get testimony about a matter that I believe that we all should be concerned about, and that is the what are the effects of people who have been kept for an extended period of time in solitary confinement.
Solitary confinement, I think that term is misused and misunderstood.
What should we call it?
Well, it should be called, placement in RHU, AC status, or disciplinary custody status. And simply because...
I want to ask you, by definition, what's the difference? Because if solitary confinement to me means a person is separated and confined by themselves. So if you call it RSU, or you call it SMU, or you call it by any other name, by definition, what's the difference? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yet, as far too often the case in Pennsylvania prisons, isolation is used arbitrarily and often when there is no threat of violence or mass disturbances involved. The hold is far too often employed for minor infractions such as being late for an appointment or returning to a cell, or being in possession of contraband, which could be something as small as having too many items in the cell. When used for these minor reasons, isolation can have the deleterious effect of contributing to the resentment against authority so many prisoners come to adapt. The act of using major force for minor infractions creates bitterness and hostility against those being punished. And this, it can be argued, may help prevent the likelihood of rehabilitation. It is also the treatment of those isolated which should be considered. Those who are mistreated by the law are less likely to adhere to the same law they felt unjustly persecuted by. Even prisoners tend to accept punishment justly applied and equal to the offense. However, disproportionate punishment given unjustly fuels resentment against those who determine the punishment, disillusionment with the very law used to justify the punishment, and resentment against the system, government, body, or society in which whose name the punishment would authorize. Human contact and decent living conditions are essential for the psychological and physical well-being of human beings. Isolation deprives inmates of both of these in several ways, including, but by no means limited to, the following. 1, it relies upon sensory deprivation. 2, it deprives those affected of much-needed contact and stabilizing human interaction. 3, it creates an environment which dehumanizes those compelled to live within it. 4, it fosters resentment and hostility against established law and society when utilized arbitrarily and without justification. 5, it has been known to provoke sadistic treatment of inmates by the correctional officers who are assigned to such units.
I have witnessed guards at SCI Green ram a baton up another prisoner's rectum, punched, kicked, and stomped prisoners down to the ground until they were unconscious, as was done to me. I witnessed guards go into a prisoner's cell who was due to be released from prison within 2 weeks, hearing what was appeared to be fighting. Guards later rushing out of the prisoner's cell, later whom was found hung to death in his cell by the second shift of guards.
How many officers that complaints was made against were removed as a result of complaints to your knowledge?
To my knowledge, there may have been a few minimal, but that really isn't a good practice to involve yourself with, simply because if the offenders know that they can get a certain officer removed from a certain post by filing an abundance of grievances, then they may take that route. And then you'll actually have an officer considered for removal from a post because of frivolous or false grievances. So that process isn't followed very.
I don't doubt that someone might want to use that avenue to remove someone if they have a problem with that person. But if you're incarcerated, I'm just trying to see myself as someone who's in the hole. And if a person is treating me fairly, or treat me humanely, that's not a person that I would want to have removed. I would probably have a problem with someone and file complaints against someone that I feel as though was not treating me fairly and not treating me humanely. So if I got the right person that's going to treat me decently, with the limited rights that an inmate has, why would I want to file a complaint against that person? This is with the satisfaction of knowing that if I do it, they will be removed.
Unnecessarily harsh treatment or neglect by guards can add to the problem significantly. The culture of the RHU dictates that inmates be treated without sympathy and shown little or no respect. Whether one is confined there for relatively minor infraction of the rules, such as smoking a cigarette in a non-smoking area, or for assaulting another prisoner or member of the prison staff, they are typically treated with a degree of contempt.
Those housed in AC status are placed for non-disciplinary reasons and whose presence in the general population would constitute a threat to life, property, himself, herself, staff, other offenders, the public, or the secure and orderly running of the facility.
In 1993, I was removed from general population and taken to the RHU restricted housing unit for unauthorized group activity, holding an educational study group. While in the RHU, I was harassed by guards having threats made on my life, called demeaning names, denied food, showers, and yard exercise. After filing grievances, which were always denied, I became even more of a target for harassment, abuse, and torture. I was physically assaulted by guards while being escorted to the yard and/or showers. It was also at this point I began to lash out in a negative way, throwing things out the cell door slot. This led to guards coming into my cell with shields, stun guns, and batons, beating me until I was almost unconscious and near death.
Solitary confinement for any extended period of time should be outlawed. Long-term segregation, clearly put, is torture. It affects the mind as surely as a branding iron scalds the flesh, and the scars might not be as apparent, but the damage is far more severe.
One of the greatest things that need to be done is that we need an independent monitoring body in society that has no ties with the Department of Corrections to actually police the prison administration. Because you have rogue prison guards, like the gentleman said, you have officers that's specially assigned to the unit. A lot of the officers that's assigned to those units are, majority of them are abusers. You have rogue officers like Lieutenant Tussin who physically assaulted me, abused me. Officers like Charles Grainer that was charged with abusing Iraqi prisoners. They was allowed free reign to run around these prisons and abuse us. And when we file our complaints, every single complaint we filed came back denied. So we need somebody to monitor that administration. Because if you continuously allow the prison administration to get away with abusing prisoners and covering each other's back in wrongdoing, you're going to continuously have a bunch of rogue officers, and you're going to have men and women that's going to come out here and feel like they want to get back. I thank God that I had people in my life to help me maintain and go through the abuse process. I had people in my life that helped me, because at one time I wanted to do a lot of damage to any prison guard I run into, any administration. But I knew that I needed to make a transformation in my life, because the only thing what happened is I would either end up dead, killing somebody, or locked up for the rest of my life. So today I do what I can to educate the community, and especially our youth, so that they don't be victimized by this system that's failing us and our community. Thank you.
Fight the power. Fight the power. That's what it's about.